Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. I've talked a little bit about Elsa and the tropical system that's coming. This is an example of an emergency muddy install. And we've got extremely saturated soil. And the more rainfall that we get from this system, it's going to create huge floods. So if you haven't seen this video, this was an emergency install, and you can see the mud and it's pouring down rain, but the water had been flooding into this house, into their brand new house. They just bought the house, and it's a family room, and water's just pouring into the family room. So they asked us, can we please come out and install this system today? And I said, well, we can do that, but it's really going to be a muddy mess. But they just, we try to help homeowners. And you can see the mess that takes place here. You can see our discharge pipe going out, and we're trying to pump the water out as we work. And again, I apologize for the video. I've got the GoPro on my head, and I'm just walking around. We're all covered in mud and it's pouring down rain, but you can see we're trying to pump that water out, and so we can get a sump basin down into the ground, and then things get a little bit easier. But first we need to get this sump pump installed so that we can work during this pouring down rain. So the reason I'm posting this video again is just to remind you that if you don't have the time to get things done and you've got an emergency, you're in Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, Miami, or here in Orlando, if you've got a true emergency, let us know, and we'll give you some priority on the schedule and get out there just as soon as we can. So the problem here is, again, the backyard is lower than the front. And as it rains, water comes across that yard and just fills up there behind the fence. As that water fills up, it floods directly into the foundation of this home. This home is on a slab. In other words, the concrete floor is at grade of the ground. And so if it floods back there, water just pours through that footer and up into your house. Over the years, we have found that dry well systems really don't function as well as people say that they do. What happens is, once the groundwater rises, no matter how deep the dry well is and how much gravel you have, it fills with water, and you can no longer send more water to it because it's overflowing. So the real solution is to put a sump basin, the backyard sump pump in, and we have done this for over 30 years. These sump basins and the sump pumps, they really work. They solve problems. They last for years and years and years. Of course, the sump pump needs maintenance, but those things, that's normal of all drains. They all need cleaned, maintenance, and things like that. Once we get this sump pump installed, we're going to have a great system, and this area is going to dry out. That's the most amazing thing. Even if you install it during a flood, it's going to work. I wouldn't recommend that you try to work in the mud. Remember, this was an emergency repair, and it's something that we do this when we have to. So we're just about ready to set this Zoller. This is a Zoller M53, so it's only a third of a horsepower, but it's more than enough to move this water. Once we get this sump pump set down in the basin, we'll open up these lines and let this water drain into that basin. And then we'll add some gravel perforated pipe. We're going to hook up the downspouts as well. So you can see I've already got the line going out. We're adding the catch basins. The guys are just covered in mud. But you know what? Once you get all dirty and covered in mud, it's actually kind of fun. And we just play in the mud. I know that sounds silly. You're a great contractor and you hear somebody say, we just play in the mud. But you know what? This is just a job. And we do this quite frequently to help out homeowners. Some of the things to notice is you can see there's already an existing trench there. Can you see that leading out front? This homeowner came out and dug the trench, trying to move that water, out from that area. But again, it's lower here where the sump basin is than it is at the street. The drain helped. His little trench helped. Of course, anything you do is going to help a little bit. But when your backyard's lower than the front, you really need a sump basin to lift this water up and send it out to the street. It's like a lift station. It lifts that water up, and then we can pipe it wherever we want. So now we're adding the tee from some catch basins. Next, we'll go ahead and put some gravel in here. We're also going to hook up the back downspout of this house. That back downspout carries about 4,000 square feet of roof. So we're talking about 2,000 gallons every 1 inch rainfall. Tremendous amounts of water coming off of that roof. Remember, we've had a great deal of rainfall, and now we've got this tropical storm, could be a hurricane, Elsa, that's moving north and going to come through the panhandle of Florida, head up through the Carolinas, and it's going to affect a great many people. Our soil is already saturated, and this system is going to dump a lot of water. There's going to be some floods. The good news is that if you do have a drainage issue like this one, it can be solved. It is really just a straightforward dig. However, this one is during the rainfall, during the mud. So now I'm going to hook up this back downspout, and pretty simple, we're going to run solid pipe from the downspout and bring that all the way around, and it'll empty into the Sump Basin. Even during a big rain, we want to make sure that our system is functioning. And you can see, number one, the trench is full of water and it's running over to the Sump Basin. Once we bring this downspout pipe in here, then we can move that water even faster. And we'll be able to cover this up, and it'll actually start to dry out. Even during the big rains, make sure that you do this thing right. In other words, watch as I hook up the downspout. You'll notice that I make sure that this line goes straight down into the ground and then turns. We don't want it to come off at an angle. Very important, the aesthetics of things. Even though it's muddy and pouring down rain, we can still make this thing work and look perfect. The downspout drain is the most important part of all rainwater drainage systems. That roof gathers so much water during big event rains, and it just comes down. If you do not have a downspout drain, that water is going to end up in your foundation. It just floods the area, moves back underground, or in this case, it comes around the side of the house and just lays here, and then it floods back up into the slab of the house. So we're almost done installing, and basically a few more connections. We need to just cut some pipe here, and we're going to connect all of this together, and it will all drain into that sump basin. That sump pump is the heart of this system. That thing functions so well. You'll see how dry this gets here in just a few minutes. I mean, it's still going to be muddy, of course, but we're going to move this water out to the street, out to the sidewalk. By using that pump, finish these connections, this is going to work great. So again, hopefully you don't need to get out in the mud and do this type of an install. You can always wait until after the storm, but again, this was an emergency, and I felt really bad for the homeowners here. They had just bought this house and just flooding into their family room. They had just moved in, and this is happening to them. You know, this video is actually almost 8 years old, and this system's still functioning today. It's working great. That's how well these systems work. That backyard basin, the sump basin, that's readily available at Lowe's. It's hard to find it at the Home Depot, but it's readily available at Lowe's. And if you've watched our videos, you can see this is just a normal install. Yeah, it's muddy, but basically I lay the line over. I'm going to cut it to length, and I'm going to cut a little slice in it, slide it into the basin, and that's ready to take all this water and let the pump take it out. When that backyard is lower than the street, I strongly suggest that you do not send this to a leach bed or a drain field or even a dry well. A sump pump is much better. You can lift that water up and send it wherever you want. Next, we're going to go ahead and send this out to the curb using 1.5 inch pipe. That's all we need. And everything's connected. So we're going to go ahead and start really moving this up. We're going to cover it up, and this will be done here in just a few minutes. So the guys are moving the mud, and I have one final connection to make here. Hook up this final catch basin, and this is ready to go. Probably the fun part about this is that you really feel good about doing the job. We've solved such a problem here, and we did it in a pouring downpour. You can do these things. These are not that hard to do. And we actually had a lot of fun here. Everybody's covered in mud, but you know what? Just keep your smile and keep working. You'll get this. So the last thing to do is to go ahead and hook up our pop-up emitter here at the sidewalk. And you can see I'm going to do this while the pump is running. When I cut this, you'll see that water just gush out of here. Doesn't matter. We can still do this. See, the water just pours out of there. We'll let that pump cycle through. It takes a few seconds, and then we'll go ahead and put this discharge. The pop-up emitter works well, and yeah, right now it's pumping a lot of mud, so it looks like it's dirty, but this will clean up. It'll all dry out, and things are going to be so nice here. This install, again, I think it was about 8 years ago, is working perfectly today. So basically, we're all done. We're going to go ahead and rinse off that driveway, just because the mud did run down across there on our temporary pump. Everything's working great. Take a look. You can see the front yard here as we pull away here. It's all nice and dry. Everything's working great. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.